Am I the a-hole for kicking my ex out of my son's birthday and throwing out the gift she got for him? My ex and I, 33 male, broke up almost 2 years ago. We had been trying to have kids, but couldn't because of my infertility. It was just very disheartening for me. My ex wanted to keep trying, but it was just too painful. I told her that I wanted to stop for now. Not stop forever, but to give me some time to grieve the fact that I'd never be able to father kids of my own before we looked into other avenues. She didn't want to wait any longer and broke up with me. A couple months later, I had a drunken one-night stand with my son's mother. To my surprise, she got pregnant. And yes, we made sure he was in fact my biological child because I never thought this could ever happen. He was a beautiful miracle. But my son's mother unfortunately passed when he was 4 months old because of issues with COVID. Ever since I've been a single father, my ex has tried to make contact. I don't want to have any contact because my life is different, and there's no place for her anymore. Her biggest advocate has been my sister, because we were together for years and broke up due to the kids' conflict. And apparently now that I have a child, we could make it work. We celebrated my son's first birthday 2 weeks ago. My family and his mom's family were there. My ex found out, and I'm sure through my sister or someone else in my family. She brought a gift for my son, but I didn't even let her come in. We had an argument at the door because she would not leave. My ex was trying to convince me to let her stay so she could meet my son and we can talk about things. I already knew why she wanted to, because she feels like she could take his mom's place on his life, and that's not gonna happen. She eventually did leave, but I was pretty mad at that point. My ex wanted to leave the gift for him. Well, she left it at my door, so I just threw it away. He got plenty of other gifts anyways. Because this happened in front of everyone, my ex and sister think I was the a-hole for humiliating her in front of not just my family, but also my son's mom's family. It would have been less chaotic to have taken her to the side and had a private conversation, so she could have slipped out without anyone noticing. On top of that, she found out I got rid of her gift, which they think I was an a-hole for because that was meant for him, and it didn't give me the right to throw out something that belonged to my son. I'm still bitter towards my ex for how things ended, and seeing her made me react that way. Because it was out of anger and hate for her, I'm wondering if I'm the a-hole for how the whole thing was handled, or was I the right? Now for the top comments. She crashed at a party uninvited. Who gave her the dates and location? Your sister? And then got upset that she was thrown out. Screw that noise. Not the a-hole. You crash a party, you get what's coming to you. She keeps saying it wasn't her. I'm not sure I believe that. My ex and sister think I was the a-hole for humiliating her in front of not just my family, but also my son's mom's family. I would not believe her either, OP. But the fact that you humiliated her in front of your son's mom's family? Would they not feel uncomfortable with a literal stranger coming in and trying to take on a mother role for your son on his first birthday with no notice? I mean, do they honestly think your ex would have been welcomed by them? Not the a-hole. Your ex is obviously obsessed with you even 2 years later. The birthday party behavior is over the line. You also need to have a serious discussion with your sister and make clear that if she keeps interfering in your life, by supporting your ex's not job behavior, you will cut her out of you and your son's lives. Finally, also make it clear to your ex that the stalkerish behavior verging on restraining order territory. If she doesn't stop, get one. She was only this way after finding out he had a baby and his mom was no longer in the picture. Now she feels like we could have what we were trying for before our breakup, which isn't going to happen. I limited how much I talked to my sister when she didn't leave it alone. And the only reason she was invited is because my family told me she's still his aunt, and our conflict shouldn't have to affect the relationship. Well, it's affecting it now. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband's brother he should reconsider his decision to adopt? My brother-in-law was adopted. He came from what we call a broken home, and it's affected his personality. He always wanted and planned to have kids with his ex-wife, but she turned out abusive, and he was barely able to escape from her with mine and my husband's help. He was devastated and kept saying his future and family ended before it was started, but we assured him he was lucky he didn't have kids with his ex and got out easily. He's now 35, single and lives alone, and has been talking about adoption a lot lately. Yesterday, he visited and brought it up again. I didn't feel he was ready despite saying that he was. I told him he is a product of an affair that ruined 2 families, and that he had a rough and stable childhood that created some serious damages, manifesting in a number of mental health issues that he hasn't worked on. And so I don't think adoption is a good idea, especially given his feelings around that, and he should really reconsider his decision. He looked at me shocked, but I told him not to take this personally because I was just pointing out that it's not fair to subject an innocent child to his mental health issues. In other words, I just don't think he's ready to be anybody's dad. He became quiet all of a sudden, then took his phone and key and said that I was rude and hurtful, then left and shut the door behind him. My husband asked what happened and why his brother left. I told him about the conversation I had with him, and he went off on me saying I messed up, and that this was none of my concern and I just made his brother feel worthless and incapable. I said no, I was just making sure he's ready, but he said I don't get to decide if he's ready or not, and told me I had to call his brother and apologize to him for the rude crap I said. But I declined because I don't think I was wrong for telling the truth as it is. We had an argument, and he isn't speaking to me now. I understand how brother-in-law might have felt, but I was just giving my opinion on this matter and a bit of advice. I told him he is a product of an affair that ruined 2 families. You're the a-hole for that comment and other reasons. He, the baby at a time, did not ruin those 2 families. They'd also stepped out on their marriages and had affairs did. Let's not blame babies for something that they have literally no control over. Agree, Opie's the a-hole. But I don't think Opie's blaming him for ruining the families. Opie said affair that ruined 2 families. Opie said the affair ruined the families, and therefore the brother-in-law has some mental health issues and traumatic childhood being the product of the affair that he should process/get in check before adopting. Fair. I see what you're saying. I just think that is an incredibly cruel thing to say to someone who is going through a mental health crisis. Opie could have gone about it in a way that expressed their concerns, but also built up brother-in-law, not tear him down. So this is what you sound like. I think you're going to be a lousy father because you come from 2 broken homes, but don't take it personally. Oh, and I wasn't even asked my opinion, but I thought I'd give it anyway. You're the a-hole. Totally agree. Opie opened her big trap and gave her opinion when it wasn't even asked for. Opie seems to think if you come from a broken home, you're a lousy parent. But I assume Opie came from a stable home. Think her parents would be ashamed they raised such a judgmental and rude a-hole. You're the a-hole. I was just giving my opinion on this matter and a bit of advice. If my husband had given this opinion to someone I cared about, I'd divorce him. In a sub full of people being a-holes, that may well be the rudest thing I've ever heard someone say. You can talk about his childhood all you want, but it's clear someone raised you wrong too. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not telling my husband I went into labor? I, 32 female, have 3 kids. Kate, 12 female, Luke, 4 male, and I just gave birth to my beautiful baby girl, Valerie. My husband and I have been married for 5 years and I love him, but he's a little bit of a mama's boy. My mother-in-law hates me. I grew up in a richer neighborhood and my parents left me with quite a lot of inheritance money when they passed, about 13 million in assets. Mother-in-law, however, was a single mother with 2 sons and had a lot of trouble just paying for basic needs. She worked her way up and I think she's very strong. But she doesn't like me and thinks I'm pretentious because apparently I had everything handed to me. Well, when I got pregnant with Luke, we decided to name him after my husband's father who died when my husband was only 3. Mother-in-law was through the roof when we told her. But ever since I fell pregnant again with Valerie, she has been adamant that we would name her Francine after her late grandmother. My husband wants to as well, but I don't. Instead, I wanted to name her Valerie. And not just because I like the name, but also because when I was 17, the song Valerie by Amy Winehouse came out and me and my family would sing it all the time. At family gatherings, it was always first on a speaker. Car rides, and just in general, it was basically our song. Well, my older sister and my parents passed away in a house fire 3 years ago, and I miss them terribly. We were all a very close family, so it hit me and my younger sister, 27, very hard. When I suggested this to my husband and mother-in-law, they actually got mad at me because they wanted it to be Francine. I suggested we name it Valerie with the middle name Francine or Francine with the middle name Valerie, but they weren't happy with either. During my last month of pregnancy, my husband has become more angry at me. I finally snapped and said that I wasn't going to name my child an ugly name that I don't like for the sake of a woman that doesn't even like me. He said that I was being unbelievable and that I had insulted a strong, independent mother. I immediately apologized, but he left to his mother's house. 2 days later, I couldn't reach him at all, and on the third day, I went into labor. Kate kept saying she would text my husband, and I told her not to bother her. After hours of labor and awful pain, I gave birth to my baby girl and named her Valerie with Diane as the middle name. Diane was my mother's name. Then about 2 hours after I gave birth, my younger sister was able to reach mother-in-law to get the message to my husband. When they came in, my husband was raging and yelling at me, calling me a pretentious backstabbing witch. And my mother-in-law was more upset about the name. I think this might be the end of my marriage, but we can still change her name if we really wanted to. So am I the a-hole? Should I change the name? Now for the comments. One thing I've learned about mama's boys is that they will never, ever, ever choose you over their mom. Get out of this situation. It's better to be on your own than with someone like him. Not stay home. My ex's mom was freaking psychotic. The first time she met my mom, she barely spoke to her. I'm thinking, oh, they're both nurses. Their kids are dating. This'll be great. Nope. She sat there freaking moping the entire time and sipping her 5th drink. She'd make him leave my place at 3 in the morning and drive 40 minutes to her house because she wanted a bag of chips and didn't want to get out of bed. And you know what? He did it. I should have left then. Not stay home. You chose Valerie in honor of your tragically killed parents and sister. How in holy hell does he think that less important than commemorating his great-grandmother whom he probably never knew? You're financially independent, so this should indeed be the end of your marriage. You don't want your children growing up thinking it's okay to be treated the way you're being treated. All I'm going to say is that your son was named for his relative who passed, so it's only fair your daughter was named for yours. The damage is already done. Keep the name. Sounds like he was trying to guilt and manipulate you anyway. He left and ignored you while you were nearing your due date, and then screams abuse at you. Honey, contact a lawyer and leave. You don't want this man to be involved any more than necessary in your life, trying to strong-arm you into getting his way after you offered compromises. Stay firm on the name. If you cave, you are setting precedent that he will always get his way if he is a bully. Not stay home. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not allowing my sister's boyfriend to meet my son? My 26 female sister, 28 female, began dating a guy in November of 2021. I'm not sure exactly how they met, but I gave her a name at first that wasn't real. He eventually told her his real first name, Miles, and a couple weeks later gave her his real last name. I thought this was sketchy, but it's not my business and I figure I can just keep my distance. 2 weeks after they met, Thanksgiving rolls around and I'm hosting it at my house. She tells me she's bringing Miles to Thanksgiving. Doesn't ask, just tells me. I was like, I don't know. I really don't want the first time I meet this guy to be at my house. I bring up the name change thing, but she's upset with me anyways. My mom and dad take her side and I end up giving in and letting him come. He doesn't do anything too weird at Thanksgiving, but he has a lot of outlandish stories to share. I am nice enough to him anyways. I decide that since my family all seem to like him, that maybe I'm just not giving him a fair shot. I decide to go to lunch with both of them a month or so later. Within 5 minutes, he says to me, "You know your grandpa has dementia, right?" I was shocked. My sister sat there nodding her head, and their evidence was my sister told him something and he forgot and asked a question about it the next day. Mind you, this man is 80 years old, but is in otherwise great shape. He then proceeds to ask me about our family business finances, how much we make each year, just inappropriate questions that are not his business. Last month, I tell my cousins, who also work at family business, the type of increase he was making, and they ban him from the office. He was coming in for hours in the middle of the day. I take my cousin's side, obviously. My dad tells me I need to mind my own freaking business, and my sister is furious with me and avoids me for a while. When we talk again, I basically tell her that I cannot trust her boyfriend and don't want to be around him. And I cite the comment about our grandpa in my explanation. She says to me, "Wow, you're really hung up on the dementia thing, aren't you?" Oh, did I mention I've been pregnant this whole time? Last week, I gave birth to a beautiful baby boy. I'm starting to allow close family to come by the house and see him. She texts me and says, "Me and Miles are coming to see baby." I tell her you can come, but he is most definitely not allowed in my house or anywhere near my son. She tells me, "Fine, I'm not coming to see him either." And I respond, "Okay, that's your choice." Now my parents are mad at me for shutting her out and not allowing her to see my son, even though I specifically stated she was welcome on her own. I thought I was in the right, but my parents are just making me feel crazy. Am I the a-hole for drawing this boundary? This endless conflict is starting to wear me down, and I'm wondering if I should just give in to keep the peace. What do y'all think? Not the a-hole. What justification has he given for providing fake names? Seems sketchy and way too interested in family wealth. Keep him away from your baby, out of your house, and try to keep records of any sketchy things you hear/see with him. He said his mom is in the FBI and he was protecting her identity. BS. This made me laugh so hard. This is what serial killers say in every true crime podcast or show I've ever seen. And trust me, no one cares about government agents as FBI anymore. I work for the government, and FBI isn't as prestigious as it used to be. In fact, we're all seen as the enemy. Not stay home and reinforce your boundary. Not stay home. Yep, your grandpa's definitely got dementia. I'd my no medical degree can spot it just that easily. Incidentally, how much did you say he was leaving all of you in the will? And is it cash or property? If your parents are really that desperate to marry your sister off despite all the red flags, or are already all in on whatever business opportunity Miles has pitched to them, that's their issue to deal with. Yours is focusing on your new family, and you set the guest list. Period. I agree. I'm worried about OP's sister's safety if even her own parents are giving this potential grifter a pass on so many flags. Not stay whole OP, but please stick to your guns until you are 100% positive this dude is safe. Keep your family protected.